Good morning. I'd like to
Morning.
call the order the Portsmouth Industrial Commission for Tuesday, August 27th, 2024. Roll call, please.
Good morning, Ms. Allen,
Present.
Mr. Foster,
Present.
Mr. Hanson.
Here.
Ms. McSwain is absent. Mr. Peterman.
Here.
Mr. Rice is absent. Mr. Barron.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you. You have before you the minutes of the July 23rd, 2024 meeting. Need a motion for adoption in a second.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion in a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Hanson.
Yes.
Mr. Rice. Ms. McSwain. Mr. Peterman.
Yes.
And Ms. Allen.
Yes.
Chair, the item is adopted by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you. Moving on to old business, the Port of Virginia update. Good morning, Chris.
Madam Chair, good morning, and members of the PPIC. Pleasure to be here. Really appreciate this opportunity to give an update. It's obviously been a couple months since we've last met, or since a representative from the port has been here before the commission. So thought I'd just take a second to sort of just recap this past fiscal year, which in our case ended on June 30th. The Port of Virginia was very fortunate to have its second busiest year in its history. In fact, we handled 3.5 million 20-foot equivalent units. Those are we call TEUs. That was a great highlight and something that really shows the sort of rebound that's taking place in volumes as we saw a slight dip coming out of COVID in 2023. Just to give you some areas we're seeing growth, which again, I think is a good trend. Our loaded exports, so the boxes that we obviously ship abroad, that volume was up about 4.2% on loaded exports. Loaded imports, equally as important, our loaded imports were up 3.6%. And where I think we saw some of our most significant growth was in the rail segment. Our overall rail business for fiscal year 24 was up 13%. That's significant growth and just shows the criticality of having multiple nodes or modes to move freight in and out of our world-class gateway ports here in Portsmouth. Just also, we continue to make, I think, significant strides when it comes to the capital improvement program. You've heard me in the past talk about the $1.4 billion currently being invested here within our port, the Port of Virginia. And when I look at, projects that have direct impact to Portsmouth, looking at PMT, I think most of you have noticed the continued movement of goods on and off that terminal. The Orion was back again just a couple of days ago, and it's great to see the production that Dominion is achieving off the coast of Virginia Beach there for the CVOW project. So we continue to stage and handle product there to support the project. But as it relates to the actual construction and the improvements that obviously we're undertaking to support the CVOW project with Dominion, we're about, all told, about 96% complete when it comes to the pile driving. I know that's been a topic of discussion here in the commission and elsewhere in the community. We expect that the final pile will be driven in about 5 to 6 weeks from now. So we do see obviously a finish line there. That first week of October, that final pile there at PMT will be completed. So I think that's something that we're excited about. And overall, that project lies about 83% complete. So we have a remaining 17% or so to get to that 100% completion, targeting final construction, completion by the end of this current calendar year is the goal. So again, that will bring PMT, that 72 acres, which is already being utilized for offshore wind marshaling, but truly a premier staging and loadout site. Nothing like anywhere on the U.S. East Coast at this moment. That is obviously what is seen as sort of the benchmark or gold standard. And so that's, I think, an exciting opportunity for all of us, and more particularly in Portsmouth, as we look at leveraging that asset to support industry here in the city. There's also been a lot of activity in the wind space, especially with Dominion Energy. And I know Brian, I was going to give an update, so I'll hand it to you. It's okay, Madam Chair, I'll hand it to Brian to talk about what we see going on with some acquisitions or shifting of leases out there off the coast by Dominion, and then maybe we can talk more with you two.
All right.
Well, great. Well, Chris, I'm going to kind of tag team this with you. I appreciate the update on the port's activities, but the port has been instrumental in the offshore wind industry and some of the changes that are happening right now, the expansion of Dominion's project. We're seeing good progress with phase one of CVAL, which is off the coast of Virginia Beach, as they're working to install the total of 176 turbines. Their goal is to have 90 of those monopile foundations installed by October, so just a couple months away. They will have to pause the construction because of some migratory patterns for sea life, whales in particular. So those installations will pause until early summer of next year, and they'll start again. But their goal is to be complete in late 2026. So some of the exciting news, I think, that has occurred since your last meeting. First, the acquisition of Avangrid's Kitty Hawk Wind project, which Dominion has acquired the rights to that. You had, I believe, in June, a representative, Ashley McLeod, with Avangrid here briefing you on the project. That is now a Dominion Energy project, and they're referring to that as CVAL South. So a 40,000 acre lease area, providing a potential for another 800 megawatts of electrical generation capacity into the 2030s. Helping Dominion meet their goals for the Virginia Clean Economy Act. So we're looking at Chris's earlier comments about the utilization of the Portsmouth Marine Terminal, another phase of wind activity being staged in Marshall out of PMT. And then just a couple weeks ago, Dominion won a second auction for the second lease area off Virginia Beach's coast. So we have now, I guess, what we call the CVAL 3 potentially here to continue that project's expansion, providing another 4 gigawatts of electricity up to 1.4 million homes that would be powered through that project. So we see offshore wind continuing to be on the horizon for Portsmouth, the region, and Virginia. And Chris, any specific updates you may have from a port's perspective on what this means for Portsmouth Marine Terminal, but really your operation in the region?
Sure. And I think, the pipeline it's good to see with this type of infrastructure investment that this obviously is so costly. And there's obviously a lot of time that goes into this infrastructure, then to see the pipeline for future utilization. So I think definitely seeing the Dominion project and how, in my eyes, they've almost set up a vertically integrated type of offshore wind enterprise within, this is my observation, within Dominion. When you start thinking about the Charybdis and that they have their own installation vessel, and now they have the marshaling port, and they've got this pipeline of projects. I think that's a really exciting way for our community to really shine. And then subsequently, you have all the projects taking place to the north of us. And there are but there are constraints in those areas that, limit the ability to handle these large components. And so again, I think the pipeline of opportunities based on what's being developed here in Portsmouth is tremendous. And then from a marketing perspective, because there is that element, and I know not to get the cart from the horse, Brian, but maybe that'll come up in future meetings. So there's a large conference that's already beginning to plan all their different activities. It's called the International Partnering Forum for Offshore Wind. It's being held in Virginia Beach, I believe, the end of April of 2025. This is an opportunity for this community, Portsmouth, the region, to really showcase, to a global audience, the efforts and work that has taken place to support the development and deployment of commercial offshore wind. So I know the regional group, HRA, which Portsmouth is obviously a supporter of the Hampton Roads Alliance, and they have taken, I think, steps to be part of that IPF conference. And so I think that's a neat opportunity again for us as a community in the maritime space to market the strengths and skill sets to future business that'll be coming here to Virginia.
And, future business being a goal here, we've seen recently the announcement in Chesapeake of Greenlink LS Cable, which is the manufacturer of the transmission cables for these types of projects. So subsea cables connecting them to the grid. The largest manufacturing investment in, I think, Hampton Roads history, over $600 million, which is just over the Portsmouth line. We're seeing a lot of interest now as it relates to supply chain. And this is really kind of the first tier one manufacturer in the offshore wind industry to set up a domestic operations in the US. So we are now seeing companies coming in behind that are suppliers to Greenlink, but also in the offshore wind industry that now see there's an opportunity here to really establish a US-based manufacturing industry. We're seeing interest. We've got a couple of projects that we're working right now that hopefully we can announce before too long that will kind of follow suit. And it's all tied to the activity that started here in Virginia, but it's really an entire East Coast play for Portsmouth. So it's really promising times ahead for the region.
Okay. Anything other than that, Chris?
Not this time, thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, Brian, do you have any revenue projection? Are we the city making more money as a result of this project or less, or who's making the money?
In terms of, revenue growth directly related to offshore wind, I think it's too early to quantify what that is. We do have projects that are kind of in the hopper that I think at some point very soon we'll be able to do that. There's revenue being generated to the Commonwealth of Virginia from Dominion Energy, what they're doing, their lease with the Port of Virginia, and so on. So for Portsmouth, I think it's a little early to determine that.
Yeah, just trying to figure out what's in it for us.
Chris?
I would say, and again, maybe future agenda item, the representative from Dominion Energy, because I will commend Dominion in their efforts to track the term local content. And they, I think, have done a really good job that they can sort of demonstrate through various contracts that are being induced by the CVAL project and where that money is going to within the communities. And so I don't by any means know what that slide looks like, but I do know they're tracking that and that, there are Portsmouth companies that are supporting and Portsmouth residents, more importantly, that are benefiting from this development currently underway that's tied to the offshore wind industry.
I'll second that. As a business that services Dominion directly, my business, we have to report to them every single person that we employ for the business, all the revenue that we generate through the business that's tied to Dominion. They are very keen to demonstrate, look at what we're doing for the community. I tend to agree. I think it's early for Portsmouth yet, but I definitely see that Dominion is keen to be able to show that there's something in it for everybody.
Councilman, do you have anything?
Oh, thank you.
Mr. City Manager Carter? Anything? Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Chris, for that presentation.
Thank you.
Moving on to 06th Street and 1603 7th Street.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just wanted to provide the PPIC with an update on the process of transferring these properties at 06th Street, 1603 7th Street, in the Ford Center Commerce Park from the Housing Authority to the PPIC. You recall in our prior discussions, there is a right-of-way that you can see it's identified here, approximation of where that is located in the yellow boundary here. That is a paper street. It's never been developed, but it bisects the two parcels there. So in order to really market this property, we are having to vacate that right of way. We do have an application that has been prepared and submitted to the planning department and is scheduled to be heard by the planning commission on September 3rd at 1:30 p.m. Following that meeting, the next step in the process would be for that to go before the city council for final acceptance and approval of the vacating of that right away. And again, that would allow for the two parcels to be combined. It will result in approximately 2 acres of land that is zoned for light industrial types of development, similar to what is adjacent to it. So you can look at some small scale warehousing, manufacturing facilities being able to be accommodated there. So this is a one of the last remaining vacant parcels in Port Center. It's been vacant for many years. And we're really excited that this is going to be something that looks to bring a development to and ultimately a new business and jobs.
Wonderful.
So we will keep you posted on that. Once that process is complete, we'll really begin the marketing effort. So we're going to be working with Harvey Lindsay Commercial Real Estate to begin marketing this property after that. Making sure we have a good plan for utilization of the property. I will share with you, we've had a little bit of interest already. So I expect there to be some strong demand for the site.
Any questions? Hearing none, thank you. We'll be turning over to Ms. Williams with the FOIA training.
Yes, I just wanted to, just to let the commissioners know that the FOIA site is updating the laws that were effective July 1st. So I do have a few commissioners that still need to take the FOIA training. Once that's addressed, I will certainly let you all know that. And then congratulations, because it's just a few more that need to complete the training, and then it will be 100%. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to new business, the FY25 Port Coast Community Grant, 1040 Virginia Avenue. Brian?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am very enthusiastic to bring this item before you. This program, Portsmouth, and I apologize for some reason some of the slide is getting cut off here. The Port Host Community Revitalization Fund program is a state program that this body, this organization helped to establish back in 2019, working with our regional partners, the Port of Virginia, Hampton Roads Alliance, and then of course the 5 port host communities in the Commonwealth, with our General Assembly, created this program specifically to provide financial support and assistance with redevelopment and revitalization projects in the port host communities. So specific to Portsmouth and our 4 other partners in the state, this program is really geared towards what we've been talking about all morning, is really supporting port-related commerce and trade. The program is available for properties that do have port-related uses, and some of the eligible uses of the program include acquisition, rehabilitation of existing buildings, repair of existing buildings, site remediation, demolition, and other physical development activities. So kind of a very broad a list of things that the program can be used for, but again, it's really intended to be port-related and supportive industrial activities. Now, I'm going to go ahead and drive from here just because, go back. Thank you. So in terms of who is eligible to apply for the program, it's only eligible to the port host community themselves. So that is the local government of that community may submit an application for funding. And that can either be for publicly owned property or on behalf of a for-profit or nonprofit entity for privately owned properties. Historically speaking, we have utilized this program since its launch for privately owned projects. This has really been a kind of a gap financing tool to really make deals work and make sure that they're feasible. And I think you'll see in a moment where we've been successful with that. The role that PPIC plays in this process is that you are the designated body that historically has received, vetted, reviewed applications and recommended approval to the city. And And that has been the process that we have been following since its inception. In terms of grant awards, there is a pool of funding that's allocated annually, currently at 1.5 million. That should be FY 2024. The awards have been made on a threshold basis of $300,000 per port host community. So that's the 1.5 million divided by 5. However, not all of the communities participate in the program. So there are some additional funds that get kind of left in the pool. And because of that, we do have the ability to apply for additional funding up to $1 million. And that is a maximum amount that can be requested annually. There is a 1-to-1 matching requirement. So there is that aspect of it that needs to be considered. Looking at the structure and how the program and funding flows, the Port Host grant application is submitted by the locality to the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. The grant awards are made to the city of Portsmouth. And following that, there is an agreement that is produced between the state and the city of Portsmouth and PPIC. There would be a subrecipient grant agreement, a performance agreement with any beneficiary of the grant. So those private entities that we have provided funding to, we would have a performance agreement with that as well. It does require that there is a deed covenant on the property for a period of 5 years, and that's really to restrict the use of the funds and the use of the property for industrial and port-related purposes. If that 5-year period, and any time in that period, there is a change in the use of the property without the state's approval, a prorated portion of funds would be subject to return. And there is an 18-month window for completion of any project that receives funding from the date of the performance agreement. Just really quickly wanted to kind of recap for those who were not on board back in 2020. We've been very successful with the program. We've had 4 projects that have received funding that really without the Port Host grant, I think we would have had a hard time landing those deals here in the city. The first is One Wild Duck Lane. This was formerly a coal-fired power plant. You can see the aerial photo there. It's really pretty much adjacent to Portsmouth, the Virginia International Gateway Terminal. Units, a national logistics firm, has just completed the construction and is in the process of opening a 70,000 square foot transloading facility. We received a $500,000 Port Host grant in 2020 to support that project. The former BASF site just down the street also received a $500,000 grant in FY21, and that allowed for the removal of the former manufacturing plant. That site is currently being utilized for logistics operations. It's also being marketed for development at this time as well. 3301 Shipwright Street, we received a $856,000 grant in FY22 for the replacement of the waterfront bulkhead for that property. And that project is still currently under construction. There was an extension provided for that. And most recently, 16 Harper Avenue, Crofton Industries received a $415,000 grant for the replacement and really complete rebuild of their waterfront pier there, which you can see in the bottom photo. Has really helped with their expansion, allowed for them to bring in additional equipment and barges, and really fantastic use of the program as well. So just again, a recap of what we've received today. So the reason we're here today is we have a new Port Host grant round getting ready to open for FY25. It will open on September 3rd. And we have one application that has been received. This is a program we market continuously throughout the year and do accept applications for review. And the application we have received for this year's round is for 1040 Virginia Avenue. The applicant is the Norfolk Portsmouth Beltline Railroad. We do have representatives here from the Beltline that I will introduce in just a minute. But I think we've got a really great opportunity here and a request for funding to support the development of what is now a vacant rail yard that will activate it for some new transloading activity, which is, I think, a new venture for the railroad. Portsmouth will serve the Port of Virginia and really the Hampton Roads region with some very much in demand rail to container transloading. The project, which we're looking at a two-phased process here. Phase one is a $6.5 million development cost. There is a phase two, which would be another $50 million on top of that. And we'll really work to repurpose the site for transloading, and we'll talk a little bit about what that means here in just a minute. The grant request is $1 million, which is just over 15% of the phase one development cost. There is a match that will be provided by the applicant of $1.5 million per the state's provisions there. So what I would like to do now is turn this over to Caitlin Moss, who's the president of the Norfolk Portsmouth Beltline Railroad. And he has with him his counsel, Ryan Snow, Crenshaw, Winter, and Martin. Ann and Ryan, if I could ask you all to join us here next to Chris. We've got a couple of vacant seats at the table.
Get invited to the adult table. Sit, stand.
Have a seat. Join us.
Sit there. Cool.
Well, my name is Cannon Moss. I'm the president and general manager of the Norfolk and Portsmouth Beltline Railroad. Ryan Snow has been our longtime general counsel. He's with Crenshaw, Ware, and Martin. He's here to make sure I don't say anything I'm supposed to say, which I probably will anyway.
Is that after you said it or before you said
it? I'm far away and it can't take me, right? So it's our intention to develop our Port Norfolk yard. I guess let me step back. The Norfolk and Portsmouth Beltline Railroad is a short line railroad. We've been in existence since 1897, operating since 1898 through this area. At our peak in the 50s, we had about 350 employees, and we handled 400,000 or 500,000 rail cars a year. And then the highway system kicked in, and so we've kind of shrank in size. Our biggest blow that just came was in 2006 when Ford packed up and left. We used to switch the Ford plant. So when that happened, we also lost a significant amount of business. But we're here and strong, but we're a small business. We have 34 employees. We run from point A to point B 11 miles. So we go from Port Norfolk, from PMT, down past Frederick, George Washington, Elm Avenue, and then we have a movable lift bridge, and then we go over to Chesapeake, and that's our major classification yard. And we bring in, CSX will bring us traffic, and then we'll go to Norfolk Southern and pick up traffic. So we're a dual serve short line railroad, and all our customers have access to both Norfolk Southern Railroad and CSX Railroad. So those are the two big railroads in the East Coast. People that are located on us have equal access to both at the same low price that we haven't taken a rate increase in 13 years. So that's pretty exciting, right? The reason that's the reason we haven't done that is because we're also owned by Norfolk Southern and CSX. So that is, but we are an independent company. We've operated as an independent company since 1898 when we were formed by the 8 railroads that came into the region. All of our employees are independent Beltline employees. So just to kind of lay that out. Our Port Norfolk yard here actually used to be the hub of the Norfolk and Portsmouth Beltline Railroad. Back in the day, the superintendent had a house over here and our office, but it's since shrank, obviously. Our game plan is to develop this into a transload facility, rail to container transload facility. So rail cars will come in, the bulk commodity will come out, put it into a container. It'll go for export. The site is ideally located. If you actually go back a slide, you can see up there in the top right-hand corner is the port's empty container yard. So all their empty containers are right there, right across the street. So our folks will be able to access empty containers right there. they can hop on the MLK extension and take a left and go over to Vig, or take a right, and infuriate the rest of the people at the boulevard as they drive up to MIT. We're in Portsmouth, I can say that. Norfolk, they don't like that joke. That's, so it's a two-phase project, with phase one being basically a 6-acre pad, where we will be able to bring in rail cars and start the project. Once that gets up and going and we have some established customers, it is our game plan to expand and actually push the rail yard out toward Martin Luther King. You can kind of see the red lines at the very top. And so we'll push it out toward MLK and continue the paving up to that area, basically making a 13-acre sort of laydown area. So right now, we're just kind of looking at trying to get phase one accomplished. It's about $6.5 million. And that is our project. So the commodities we're focusing on are agriculture products, resin plastics, which are plastic pellets, and cellulose products, which are paper type products. But we'll translate anything. So if the port would like to bring in some offshore wind components, for example, we're literally right there to transload it. So that's the very high, very quick explanation of what we're trying to do.
Do we have any questions?
Is this a multi-year project?
Yes.
I see phase one and phase two, but it's.
Yes, sir. So phase one, we expect by 2025 have that completed. Phase two, it's a lot more engineering, a lot more involved. So we're hoping to have that started in 17, completed by 19. Not 70, excuse me, 27 and 21. So there you go. Going back in time. But yes, that is the game plan.
Any other questions?
No plans to transition rail to road, just pure rail. Or you got material coming into over road, transloading into onto rail, or vice versa.
You mean bringing in trucks and taking
Yeah.
and stripping them down and putting them into rail cars?
Yes, sir. Or vice versa.
Not at this time. I mean, the Port of Virginia is mostly an export port. What we're looking at is all sort of export business.
Yeah.
The majority of the traffic the Beltline currently handles is export. Our biggest customer is Purdue. They have an export grain elevator across the river over here.
Yep.
And so, but yeah, mostly export.
Councilman,
Oh, thanks.
Mr. City Manager?
No questions, thank you.
Okay. Hearing no other questions?
I'm sure, if I can just ask, since we have him here at the table, Mr. Gullicks and Chris, what does something like this mean for the Port of Virginia and your operations? And Ken had mentioned export activity. What does this benefit?
Yeah, I mean, this is an ideal use for a site in this location because how critical exports are. I mean, at the end of the day, we at Port of Virginia are very fortunate to have a balanced trade. So as I mentioned, exports are up. 50% of our freight is import, 50% is export, but the loads pay, obviously. And so the opportunity to have more loads going out overall benefits us as an enterprise because we become more attractive as a port having a balanced trade portfolio. So I think it's a great thing. It's definitely a segment of business we're targeting. It's something that, we see the fact that we have Pierce Point Container Yard. That's a critical piece, the empty yard, to support the movement of export loads. So again, talked about location. This is a great enhancement to a site that at this point would probably be deemed underutilized based on its proximity to what it could be. So definitely it's an exciting opportunity. I know our sales team has definitely been in discussions with Norfolk Portsmouth Beltline on finding those export opportunities to locate there at the site. So yeah, it's a great project.
I got a question. You said that you have 35 employees now, or is it 30?
Yes.
Will you be hiring more with this?
Yes, ma'am. Phase one, we expect to add 10 more jobs. That's both railroad and transload, 10 to 15. Phase two, when it's fully built out, it's a 50-person operation. So
Thank you.
significant increase. Yeah, and I'll say this because it's a pitch for railroading in general. Every rail car we bring in is 4 trucks that you don't have to fight on 60 foot. Just think of that.
I have a question for Brian. Is there a down select criteria that you have? I mean, you have multiple applications and you had to select one, or how does that work?
Well, we've had a scenario, I think, in a prior year where we had two applications and, as part of this process, this is really determining, which project would be the highest priority for, the city in any given year. Just so happens we only have one application for consideration this year. But we have had that scenario in a prior year and, the PPIC is the body, by which we determine what the priority is. And in that instance, I believe it was the first grant application, which was for the Cogentrix plant. The other application, I think, went for the following year and received funding. So it's just a matter of prioritizing what the needs are. But in this scenario, we have just one application for consideration. That's not to say we aren't working on other projects that could be eligible. They're just not in a position at which they could apply. Not, I guess, shovel ready, I suppose would be the term to use. We're fortunate that we have a project that's been in the planning stages, as Mr. Moss has said, for a few years now, and we're shovel ready. So, does that answer your question?
Yes. You know, I was just thinking about the seawall that we have that is unusable by anybody commercially right now. I'm just wondering if, you know, there might be something that we could do with that. I mean, it's kind of the attraction of the city. And right now it's totally unusable.
We could, public projects are eligible, and that would be something I think we'd be able to explore in the future. I'm not sure what seawall it is that is in need, but that would be something that in a future year we could, you know, look at. Or any real publicly owned opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
So our next steps would be to vote on this and then it would need to go to city council.
Well, thank you for asking that question because we have a timeline here.
I'm clairvoyant.
Identified, Madam Chair. So yes, you're correct. There would be a need to pass a resolution today to approve, accept and approve the application, and recommend to the city council that that be authorized. That would have to happen today. And the timeline would be to move that authorization forward to the city council at September 24th, being kind of the latest opportunity to do that. The deadline for submittal of the application is October 4th. Obviously working to get it in before that. The grant award typically comes out the first quarter, so we'd be looking at Q1 2025. And then the performance agreement is issued by the state the following quarter. And then there's an 18-month completion window. In my conversations with the Beltline and Canon, you can certainly update us, but they're ready to go. I think they're, as soon as the funding is available, they're able to move forward with their.
Hey, can I ask kind of one more question? Are you going ahead if you don't get this approach, you know, this money, or are you just totally dependent on getting this money?
We will move forward with it. It'll be delayed. I'm thinking when I try to answer this question, we've had an incident. We have a big movable lift bridge down here. It got struck by a tugboat on Father's Day weekend and knocked it 6 feet off one of its pilings. So we're in the process of trying to put that back together. We have insurance, not enough. So a lot of my capital is involved putting that thing back together. So the short answer is yes, we'll move forward with it. The long answer is it'll just take a lot longer than what we want to do. Because I have to, you know, we sued the tugboat company, but that's a long time from now.
Thank you.
I have no further questions.
There is a resolution that has been drafted. I believe that there's a copy of that Mr. Miller has. That has been prepared, but we are in need of a. It is the desire of the PPIC for the application would be in need of a motion.
I can make that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion for, how about we read the resolution?
Yeah, I'll read the resolution.
Congratulations.
Be it resolved that the Portland Industrial Commission wishes to apply for $1 million of Port Host Community Revitalization Funds for the Norfolk and Portsmouth Beltline Railroad / 1040 Virginia Avenue project for development of property in support of port-related activity within the city of Portsmouth, Virginia. And whereas $1.5 million of private funds will also be expended on this property, and it is projected that 15 new jobs will result from the implementation of the project, be it further resolved that one, the submission of an application for Port Host Community Revitalization Funds for the reference project is hereby approved by the PPIC Board of Commissioners. Two, the chair and vice chair are each hereby authorized to execute and submit the appropriate documents for the submittal of this Port Host Community Revitalization Fund application. Three, the chair, vice chair, and secretary and the secretary's designees are hereby authorized to take such other actions and execute such other agreements or documents as may be required to further the intent of this resolution. And four, this resolution shall be effective immediately upon its adoption. Adopted this 27th day of August, 2024.
Thank you for the reading of the resolution. We do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none? Roll call vote.
Mr. Barrow,
Yes.
Mr. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Hanson,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Peterman,
Yes.
and Ms. Allen.
Yes.
Here, the item is adopted by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Congratulations.
All right, I could get it.
Okay, our next item of business is we do have a need to go into a closed meeting. Vice Chair Peterman, would you please read the statement?
I move to go into a closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code subsection 2-2.2-3711 8.3 for the purpose of discussing the disposition of real property where discussion in an open meeting would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body, specifically regarding the disposition of 3920 and 3930 Burton's Point Road. I hereby move that the commissioner certify.
That's actually, you,
No, that's done.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
that's done.
when we come out.
Okay, that's when we come out. Okay.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barrow,
Yes.
Foster.
Yes.
Mr. Hanson,
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Peterman,
Yes.
and Ms. Allen.
Yes.
Chair, the item is adopted by a vote of 6-0. You are now in a closed meeting.
Thank you.
Discussed or considered in the closed meeting just concluded.
We have a motion, second. A motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Barham,
Yes.
Mr. Foster.
Yes.
Mr. Hanson.
Yes.
Ms. McSwain,
Yes.
Mr. Peterman,
Yes.
and Ms. Allen.
Yes.
Chair, the item is approved by a vote of 6-0. You are now in an open meeting.
Thank you. I don't have any items submitted by commissioners. Do you?
I have not received any items from the report.
Report back?
I think we've covered everything. I do not have any additional report text for you today.
Thank you. And we have gone through the agenda, so we are adjourned. Everyone have a great day.